Hey, this is Matt once again. What about the end of the videos? Another paid request. This time for Josh. Thank you so much for that. And I apologize for the lateness of it. It took me a bit to find the film because I didn't own it. But thank you so much, man. And for those interested in requesting any type of reviews or a list, reaction, a topic, commentary, whatever, feel free to send it. Either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And we'll definitely get to it as soon as I can. All those links are down below in the info box, as well as my second YouTube channel, in case anything happens with this one. And the film we're talking about today is Downhill Racer from 1969. So definitely going all the way back, old school. And this was an interesting watch, I will say, at the very least. First off, it's the first film by Michael Ritchie, which I definitely knew that name because he directed my favorite comedy, which is The Golden Child, with Eddie Murphy. He also did Fletch with Chevy Chase. He did Digstown, underrated film with James Woods and Louis Gossett Jr. He did a lot of other movies too, but those are ones that come to mind. And the movie has Robert Redford and Gene Hackman star in it. Two capable actors. Gene Hackman, I love ever since I saw him in Uncommon Valor from back in the day, and of course he was in Superman and plenty of other movies. Narrow Margin, the list goes on. Just Gene Hackman, one of the greatest actors we've ever had. And Robert Redford, I don't mind. I mean, I didn't grow up with him as much, but I do like him in All the President's Men, for example, among other films. But when I said this is an interesting movie to watch, is it does things that I didn't expect. Now, I'm not sure if that's 100% successful in doing it, but for example, the way it opens with the end credits, meaning there's a guy skiing, it'll freeze frame from time to time, and it's showing like all the crew credits, and even the Technicolor, and these are all the songs throughout the film, and like this is something you could see at the end of the movie, but it's shown at the beginning of the movie. So that when the movie ends, it'll just I'll get to that. So it made for a different vibe to it. It's like, wow, they're showing all the end credits first. Interesting. And also the movie's done in a very documentary style format. So a lot of times there's little music, and it feels like you're kind of there in the midst of what's going on. And at times you get these very hard cuts that almost like took me aback at times. Because the story is, as we're seeing this scene amongst the end credits, and sometimes it freeze frames, the person wipes out, hits hard. Gene Hackman is a coach for the U.S. men's ski team. He needs to find new guys. One of them is Robert Redford. And like the ski scenes are pretty well filmed. It's real people doing it, dangerous shit, going super super fast. At times it's done like in a POV, which I'm like, I don't know how the hell they did this in 1969. So it's like people skiing, but I would assume just someone holding the camera, but to hold the camera and you're still skiing on it, I mean, that's gonna be fucking tough. But you'll see like the whole scene of certain skiing sequences done in a POV, like we're in their eyes going through all this. That was really cool. Like, I didn't expect that, but that was really neat to see on a technical front. And it's definitely seems like the typical film. You have the guy who's not a team player. You have the differences he has with the coach, and you have this romance that happens, and will they or won't they get together? But it feels like a cliche movie, but it doesn't play out that way because, again, the way the hard cuts and the documentary style and the romance is like more matter of fact, where he wants to fast in and out for fun, and you find out that she's using him as well. So even if he's fallen a little bit in love with her, she wants nothing to do with him. This how everything's so matter of fact like took me a bit aback. And a lot of it is sort of on the track of the snowy mountains, being a part of this team, going down these mountains. And I'll cut to like Gene Hammond doing these dealings to get deals for cash to support the team, or the steed manufacturer who wants them to use his steeds. But then that's when Robert Redford's more interested in the guy's assistant. You get a little bit of his backstory, like his dad, it's awkward him talking to his dad, and his own won't be a champion, and the dad only says, well, world's full of them. Like very nonchalant. And it's one of those things that, again, it's a pretty decent sports film in terms of solid action, some artistic style, capable two leads, but has a certain coldness to it. Almost like a lack of emotion. And I'm not saying it's dull, but it's pretty off the beaten path in the way it feels. And you kind of see, like, this is why a lot of movies do go in the cliche part where, the rousing speech that get people motivated and the rousing music rising up and will he make it, will he not make it, and it plays against those types, so it's this kind of, like I said, there's no big speeches, there's no rising music. It kind of does away a bit of the cliches of sports films you would see, before and much later on. And it, a lot of times uses silence to invoke certain feelings. But I will say, in a way, it does it to a fault. That while despite it, there's a reason why those cliches did become cliches, is because they can be very, very effective. So for me, I got a bit of a emotional disconnect from the proceedings. I don't really know if I could say I really gave a shit about Robert Redford's character. At the very most, or I mean, at the very least, I was indifferent. Or maybe at the very most, I was indifferent. I don't know, depending where I'm leaning more towards. But I'm sitting there going, okay, like, do I really give a shit if he wins? Do I really give a shit about what's going on with him? Like I said, I never really get a sense of this emotional core of this character, because everything's played sort of matter of fact on its sleeve. Same with Gene Hackman. Like, I like Gene Hackman, but they have a few conversations between each other, Redford and Hackman, but there's not a lot of like big emotional butting of heads, and I just stuff that would make it more of a movie. Like, in a way, you say this is playing it more for real. To make it less like a movie and be dramatic over dramatic, but at the same time, you then see why we have those portions of drama in movies, to make it more of a emotional pull for the audience to get into. So one of those things, it feels like more of an experimental sports movie. I did not expect that. And I will say that made it interesting to watch. For the countless movies I've seen, it made it different, cool to watch. And I would easily say, definitely, if you liked any amount of sports movies, for the wonderful scene, cinematography, and action, the documentary different style of feel, if you're tired of seeing the same thing over and over again, you get some capable actors. I think like Dabney Coleman's in the film. They say Sylvester Stallone's in the film in a cameo, but I forgot. You might be able to. I guess he's in the restaurant, like a restaurant. I couldn't see him. Maybe it's one of those I'd have to look a bit more closely. But it's one of those like blink and you miss it cameos because he wasn't a star at the time. He was just an extra. Unless someone made that shit up and put it on IMDb, Wikipedia, all that stuff. But like the way it ends kind of is prominent to my feelings on it. Super spoilers. Starting now. Robert Redford does the race. He wins it. In fact, he gets like the fastest time. But there's no rousing, triumphant musical score. It's just, matter of fact, he won. The crowd cheers. And it's not like Gene Hackman and Robert Redford have this big emotion. I love you, man. You'll hug you. No, it's just coach, player. Probably like how it would really play in real life, perhaps. But I just said he made it that I'm not used to seeing that. But then there's one more. I think it's a German racer. And they watch. And there's no like music or suspense like, oh, will he do it? It's just cutting back and forth. The guy might make it. Bit of slow-mo, but then he falls and he trips. And he doesn't make it. And he fails. And Robert Redford wins. And so, like, he's being congratulated that he won. He briefly looks at the German steer and looks at him. He's being lifted up. And as soon as he's lifted up, freeze frame, cut, end the movie. And because most of the end credits are done, it's just like one or two pieces of credits, the end. Just a very strange, abrupt ending. They go, did the film break? Well, I gotta admit, for a good 30 seconds, I went, did I get a shitty copy? What happened to this movie? Like, do I have to look for it somewhere else to watch online? It's like, no, that's how it's supposed to end. I'm like, now I don't know what their goal was for that. I don't know if it's just to be different, if it's meant to be some big meaning about it's all about winning, and once that's done, there's nothing else to it, so cut. Or, I don't know if there's some other underlining theme to that. I don't know. If there is, I say I don't know. But I say it definitely went, what the fuck? But like I say, it was it's more interesting than fun to watch, if that makes sense. Interesting in an experimental sense. It just doesn't have the emotional satisfaction that not all, but a lot of people go into sports movies for. As cliche or as predictable may be, they became cliche for a reason. You know, people do enjoy that, but like I say, it was interesting to watch. I don't think I would ever watch it again. I think for like Gene Hackman sports movies, they probably watch Hoosiers more than this, among other films. Like for me, sports movies, I would say my favorites would be Any Given Sunday with Al Pacino, White Men Can't Jump, not the remake coming out, but Woody Harrelson, Wesley Snipes. Major League, the first one I really enjoy. That's a couple I could mention. But this was definitely at least worth one watch. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.